Hi everyone, Order and Chaos has just been spoiled by Snowjacks on Reddit. Courtesy of him, we get a lot more spoiler flooding. And since it's just right out of the oven, I decided to do up a video today discussing my overarching feelings about this Order and Chaos in general. So let us begin. So we have a big box that is mostly based on Wayland and Anarch. And the first thing I noticed is that there are a lot of hard counters packed in the big box. Counters for Anarch against Wayland and vice versa. For example, with Wayland, rather for the Corps, we have this Cyberdex Virus Suite, which is incredible. This one card by itself deserves an entire video on its own. I guess I'll get down to making a video in the near future. But the possibilities that Cyberdex Virus Suite offers are endless. Just to give you a quick teaser, this is instant speed. It's like clone chip. It can fire off anytime without using clicks. How fantastic is that? So yes, it is a hard counter against anyone running viruses. Which is Anarch, basically. And for Anarch, they have their own hard counters against Wayland too. We have the new current, which punishes the Corp for taking too much bad publicity. And as we all know, Wayland is the bad pub faction with hostile takeover and yeah, a lot of agendas that give bad pub, and as well as a new illicit ice coming in this big box. Then, another big counter is the one that prevents all damage, Sacrificial Clone. This prevents a flatline, which can be really amazing. And another innate flatline prevention tactic is Steel Skin, which I expect many Anarchs will be running in the near future. So another thing that I noticed about this big box in general is that there is a very strong thematic emphasis, which is very good. I think the flavor of Netrunner is immensely enhanced because of the theme that they try to stick to throughout the game. And you can see this here that Wayland and Anarchs are very well known as very infamous for being the most high variance factions thus far. I mean, Anarchs don't have the same consistency as Shapers and Criminals because they have the least tutors in the faction, and they have very weak draw power. On the other hand, Wayland cannot fast advance and is usually relies on the Scorched Earth combo or Punitive Strike combo, both of which require you to draw at least 2 of the 3 combo pieces in order to ensure a flatline. So yeah, very high variance runner and Corp on both sides, and to balance that out, they've made the good decision that all 3 new IDs for each side, of all the 6 new IDs, none of them are small deck IDs. There are no 40 deck size IDs. This is in wild contrast to the first 2 big boxes. We have Chaos Theory. Chaos Theory wasn't from the big box, but for Shapers we have Chaos Theory, Jinteki, Harmony Medtech. We have The World Is Yours from NBN. Criminals gets Silhouette, and yeah, HB, there is no small ID for HB just yet, but yeah, so Anarchs and Waylands aren't getting one either, and that's because if they have a small deck ID, everyone will be playing it to combo out all their combo pieces. Alright, enough time on that. Let's delve into the good stuff that we have from the Corp side and the Runner side. Starting with the Corp side, first thing very obviously, in stark contrast to the first 3 IDs we have, these 3 IDs, of these 3, none of them are money based for the Corp. Which is a very refreshing change. I'm glad that they have taken a step in the other direction to explore the design space that Netrunner offers. So all these 3, each of them does something different. Argus Security is the ID to play for Tech and Back, Guardian Deep Space for horizontal base Wayland, and Titan Transnational seems like something that you play to trigger Atlas Train, I'm sorry. Yeah, combo-tastic fast advance Titan Transnational. Alright, so yes, very refreshing, and I think this is a good thing because this means that we'll see more IDs in play rather than IDs that supersede the old ones. Alright, another good thing is, as I was talking about, exploring new design space, which is very important for keeping Netrunner as a game very fresh. They've done it again. We have all the new eyes that can be advanced to lower the res cost. This is something completely new, And we have some very cool stuff like condition operations. There was oversight AI and viral efficiency research, but this is the first one that actually improves the piece of ice that is being hosted on. So you have parasite that brings down enemy ice. This one is the exact reverse. It lifts your ice up, and that's great. So yeah, there are lots of new things that they have explored as well. Um, I think the trap, where's the ambush? Yeah, space camp, very interesting stuff. If you access this card at all, Corp gets a free advancement. Crazy stuff. I really like the fact that they've reinforced the thematic. They've brought out some thematic. How do you say? Yeah, there is a theme to the ice that they are releasing in this big box. As I said, you have the ice that can be advanced to lower the rest cost. You look at the theme: asteroid belt, wormhole, nebula, and all of them combined into the Orion. That's pretty cool. And also you have the little Easter egg that's firewall, an improvement over the current ice wall. Fantastic stuff. What else do we have? We have Cyberdeck's Fire Suite, as I talked about. Moving on to runner side. Similar thing with regards to ID. Very diverse, and they all branch off in a different direction from what we currently have, which is pretty fantastic because the current NR IDs are already very unique as they are. They've actually managed to find even more unique things to do with them. Edward Kim, well, it's kind of like a wizard, except complete opposite, and with one link to boot. We have Max, which is the big NR ID that everyone's all excited about because it actually gives NR's consistency for once. This is a very powerful ID, expect to see it often. And Valencia Estevez, which goes in a completely off the wall direction. The bad pup means that you really want to take advantage of this bad pup. You are going to see lots of janky combos come up when Valencia hits the board. What else is there good about NRX? Well, once again, they've reinforced the theme. NRX are known as the high risk, high reward faction. You have Stim Hack Infection and what other high risk, high reward cards are there currently in the card pool? Can't think of too many off the top of my head, but as you know, all the tech and bad publicity stuff that they have, like Teleparole, activist support, all of these give a huge penalty to the Corp, but at the cost of inflicting damage to themselves as well. And well, we see the same theme continue in the big box. We have things like AMP and Steam Dealer. Huge reward in gaining clicks. Gaining clicks is really fantastic, but at the cost of taking brain damage. And I love the utensil events. Once again, more themes. The Wayland has all the space ice. Now we have all the utensils, fork, knife, and spoon, and they all go down to the ether, which really does take advantage of being able to break through all three types of ice subtypes. Notice that there are no new icebreakers aside from this one ether, and it's not something that you want to regularly run with because you cannot access cards. But otherwise, it's really interesting. We are seeing lots and lots of events from NR, which is really great. I look at my deck box, there are so many programs, so many of them cannot be used because there isn't enough memory. Well, at least they've filled in the gaps that NR really needs, which is more awesome events. And if you look down the column, they are all really cheap to play. That's NR for you. Cheap to play and really game-changing. What else is good about NR? I like the mass destruction team. There was one-time destruction, which everyone was so hyped up about, but there's also a lot of other good stuff like showing off, where you can destroy cards from the bottom of the deck. Okay, not destroy, but get to places where most other runners cannot. There's also the destructive stuff such as where do we have destructive stuff? Sorry, this is kind of new. The fork, knife, and spoon, of course. A gentle reminder that This is the first time ever since they've creation and control that the runner has new tools to destroy Corp ice. Ever since Parasite came out in the core set and then Kraken in creation and control, they have not released anymore because they know that by releasing anything that destroys Corp ice, it's going to be way overpowered. But finally, they've decided to do it, and we get these events. Really awesome stuff, and I love the influence cost as well. Definitely makes you think twice about splashing them in other factions. And finally, they've explored new design space. They've done it again. Steel Skin is one of the most unique ways to prevent a flatline. If you take meat or net damage that might flatline you, you might end up drawing more cards instead. Of course, there's a condition that is being discussed on the forums, but otherwise, this is a very new way to protect yourself. And the best thing about it is that it doesn't have to be shown to the Corp. Unlike Plascrete, which is on the table, the Corp is prepared to blow through a Plascrete. This Steel Skin, the Corp will never know if the runner is holding one in hand. If they're playing that Scorched Earth to take 4 meat damage and they hit this Steel Skin, the runner draws back more cards. So for once, the NR actually gets some effective damage prevention measures, unlike Teleparole, which is really crappy. This is actually worth a lot. Alright, so that's a lot of exalting that I've been doing. Now for the unfortunate stuff, the boos that I have to give. Let's start with Wayland. Now, one very obvious thing that you probably noticed is that unlike the other big boxes, there are no new. Unlike the other factions, we are not getting any more 3-2s for Wayland. So Wayland will always be stuck as the faction without enough fast advanced agendas. HB and NBN have 6 3-2 agendas. Jinteki has 4. Philotic can only be included as a one-off. But they have Medical Breakthrough, which pretty much enables fast advance, Tenin, and yeah, and that's all that you really need. But for Wayland, that will never happen because there are no 3-2 agendas. In exchange for that, they get a high variance agenda, the first of its kind, a 9-6 agenda, the first agenda that is worth more than 3 agenda points. I have mixed feelings about this. I know it's 1 per deck, but this really highly increases the variance of the game by so much. If the runner makes a first turn run and hits it, and the Corp doesn't have a punitive construct to punish it, the game's pretty much over for the Corp. And I don't really like such games which end like that. Very unfulfilling. You hit a 6-point agenda and win the game. That's very... Yeah, there's no sense of accomplishment in that. And that's the rare chance that you access the agenda and win the game as the runner. Most of the others, for most of the rest of the time, you cannot find any agendas because their agenda density is so low. Because of this agenda being included in the deck, it's just very annoying to play against. So I'm not too sure whether this high variance agenda suite is a good thing. We'll have to see. The next thing that I don't really like is that meat damage is becoming more like net damage. What this means is that meat damage used to be thought of as something that combos out to finish the runner in one fell swoop, whereas net damage is more of an attrition thing, like what you see in Cambridge Personal Evolution. But now, instead of reinforcing the idea, they've gone a step back, and meat damage is now like chip damage. Argus Security, you only suffer 2 meat damage per agenda access. Traffic Accident is a terrible card. Why would you ever play this in Wayland? You need more attacks than Scorched Earth, and it does less damage. So yeah, there are not that many meat damage cards in this big box, and they don't have the kind of impact that Scorched Earth brings to the table. So that's something I'm quite disappointed with. Granted, if you reprint Scorched Earth as Scorched Earth 4, 5, 6, they can include your deck, it'll be pretty powerful. But I was still expecting them to follow the theme of Wayland being a combo faction that instantly flatlines anyone who does stupid stuff. Looks like it's not happening. And of course, the executive follows in the footsteps of disappointing executives from HB and Jinteki. The HB one, Director Haas, is still probably the best. No one ever plays Chairman Hero, and I don't expect anyone to play Mark Yale. The moment you rest him, sure, the runner might not win even though you have 7 agenda points, but I can be pretty sure they will be coming for Mark Yeo very soon. And you don't have much time to defend him. Oh, sorry, did I say Mark Yeo? My bad. The board. Yes, Mark Yeo is just a random executive. It's the board that we're after. Sure, it has a 7 trash cost, but come on, runner economy these days. Especially if the Anarchs go get a day job, you can be sure they'll have enough money to trash that. Yeah, I was really hoping that the new Wayland executive would bring a new dimension to Wayland tag and back or Wayland meat damage flatline, but we're not getting that. And we also don't get Jack Beanstalk. Disappointment. Alright, moving on to Anarchs quickly. Yes, my biggest gripe, too many viruses. This is not acceptable in my opinion, especially when you only have one Anarch ID that can capitalize on virus installs. I understand that viruses are an integral part of the game. It's in the core set rulebook, so it's only fair that they print lots of viruses, but I'd like to see more viruses in other factions. Sure, Anarch should be the king of viruses, but that doesn't mean the other factions can't have some viruses of their own as well. And they haven't been doing much of out-of-faction virus printing, except for Cash, which really should be out-of-faction. It'll be too good in Anarch. Yeah, there are too many virus support cards, especially, which is quite annoying. Like Virus Breeding Ground, you have the Demon, Progenitor, and you have a hardware that is solely dedicated for installing virus programs. Do you really want to see everyone play noise when playing Anarch because there are so many viruses? Yeah, I don't really like that. If everyone starts playing, if everyone who plays Anarch only plays noise, it's not much better than Andromeda dominating the criminal scene. And printing more and more viruses is only going to accelerate that. So, not a big fan. And my other gripe is the lack of bad publicity support. Yeah, we have a new ID that is very powerful for the bad publicity build because right off the get-go, blackmail is enabled already. We have investigative journalism, and that's about it. That's all the big box brought in terms of bad publicity. It's very disappointing. Even this card here, it's very, very slow. You need 5 clicks to give 1 bad publicity. That's terrible. That's a very terrible trade. So yeah, you need a lot of work to get iterant protesters to work. And at the end of the day, it's just going to be a go big or go home attempt. And I suspect it'll end up being go home, especially when now increasingly Corps are finding more and more ways to rest ice outside of the timing structure of a run. With Oversight AI, Executive Bootcamp, and yeah, all the new stuff, I don't think this bad publicity thing is going to take off very well. So that's my overarching thoughts with regards to Order and Chaos. I can't wait to get my hands on it, but at the same time, yes, it leaves me longing for a bit more. What do you think? Leave your comments in the comment section below, and until then,